Welcome to this Crypto Professor video on XRP and the ensuing drama that is going on regarding its status as a security or not over in the US. In the last 24 hours, we have seen a huge sell-off for Ripple as the SEC have decided that they are going to sue Ripple Labs for an unlicensed security sale going back 7 years. Now, I'll get to the story a little bit later on in this video. I just want to explain some background as to what has been going on. So you'll notice that Ripple has actually sold off and is now the fourth largest cryptocurrency rather than the third. Tether has moved up to the third spot. So that's just to me that people have been liquidating their Ripple into a stablecoin such as Tether, as every other asset that is mainstream at the moment, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., is actually comparatively expensive in the grand scheme of things. You'll notice the price of Ripple has sold off considerably. Going back a couple of weeks or so, we were up at 60 cents, 63 cents or so. We're now down below 30. So that is quite a dramatic movement. We can see that dramatic movement also in the market capitalization, basically doing a complete recovery back to over a month ago on the 18th of November, with the market cap currently around about $13 billion. Reached a peak of over $30 billion on the 25th of November, caused by the Spark token launch, and has now made a complete recovery very, very quickly. In my previous video, I did say that there would be a recovery, most likely, because Ripple tends to do this. It tends to have explosive growth followed by an almost complete recovery. I didn't expect it to happen as quickly as this. Part of the reason is that Ripple Labs owns 55 billion of their coins still, and they are holding that in situ and releasing them on a predetermined schedule based on how many people adopt the cryptocurrencies. Now, people are getting, when corporate entities come on board, they are getting perks in the form of fewer fees and kickbacks from Ripple Labs. And this is all starting to pile up and mount up and look like a securities offering from the SEC. But let's look at the price action in detail and actually see what has happened. So we have hit this long-term trend that was acting as resistance and is now acting as support. We obviously hit these two echelons recently, going up to around about the 63 cent level and then breaking as high as the 75 cent level, and then a period of consolidation followed by a dramatic descent. Now, this dramatic descent has definitely been caused by the news as opposed to anything else, with people liquidating vast amounts of XRP in the process. And you'll notice that generally this pattern actually has a predecessor, this movement here, followed by this gradual sell-off, which was a little less dramatic than this one. Okay, but these patterns do happen from time to time with Ripple as people buy and sell, and the idea is to accumulate potentially as many as possible, because this is obviously was the most attractive cryptocurrency in the top 10, because it was more or less the cheapest cryptocurrency with the most fundamental support from a corporate entity. Okay, let's now look at the actual chart itself on a smaller scale. So you'll see this ricochet all the way up here, consolidation. I expected it to kind of coalesce around this region in my previous video. It didn't. It broke down and used this as resistance. We're now using this long-term line as support, and that's a perfect intraday movement there, with us staying above this level. So this is acting as support at the moment, probably just because people are not willing to sell all the way down at 25 cents, but also people are also willing to buy at 25 cents for a reason I will explain a little bit later. If we break here and start to go underneath this line of support and it becomes resistance, then I fully expect the price to descend to the 15 cent level, and then ultimately the 0.06 cent level if things go very south with the SEC's investigation and their punishment, I suppose, of Ripple itself. We could see a relief rally all the way up to 40 cents for Ripple, as traders either speculate and think this is all going to blow over in the long term, or people decide that it's too much of a bargain to miss out, or there are intraday traders or inter-opportunity traders looking to buy this bottom and sell somewhere in this region. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a relief rally all the way up to 40 cents and then a catastrophic drop if something were to develop further down to 15 cents and ultimately 6 cents. Now let's not forget we were around about the 14-15 cent level back in the summer, okay, and that was with Bitcoin climbing. So it's entirely possible for us to see a 14-15 cent Ripple price over the course of the next few months, particularly with this storm that is raging for Ripple. The reason why I think this price might ascend dramatically is purely down to the fact that against BTC, Ripple is basically the lowest it's ever been. It's around about 1,000 Satoshi at the moment. And that is a bargain price, particularly where Bitcoin is at the moment. So if traders are looking to potentially lock in their profits, because obviously Bitcoin has been edging higher and higher, $24,200 is the peak so far. If traders are deciding to take their profits and put them into altcoins, you could do a lot worse than buy Ripple at the moment against BTC. Obviously provided that they believe that BTC and Ripple have long-term potential. So I believe that against BTC there'll be a lot of people wanting to buy into Ripple, and actually in fact we can see that later on the charts themselves. Now I just want to say that the controversy with Ripple and the SEC is not new. This is nothing new. I mentioned it in my book, which was published over a year ago, and this dates all the way back to 2015, 2016, and particularly became relevant in 2018 when there was a class action suit over the never-ending ICO, I suppose, of Ripple, where Ripple was being sold into the market at predetermined levels. It was being sold to large institutions at a discount sometimes, and this was causing all of the controversy around Ripple because obviously it isn't a mined token, it's a pre-mined token, and there's a company behind it. So the fact that there is a company behind it where, you know, if a good news story comes out about the company, then the price goes up. If there's a bad news story, the price goes down. So effectively it can be seen as a form of security, which obviously the SEC wouldn't want to happen. So this is also another news story from the time. This is actually from 2020, so a little bit further on, where the same class action lawsuit decided that XRP may not be a security. So there's all this controversy, there's all this doubt over the XRP token, whether it qualifies as a security or not. Ripple themselves categorically say that it is not a security. They do not want to have to go through the SEC and get a securities license in order to trade, because obviously that would mean the end of decentralization or allowing Ripple to be exchanged worldwide. You'd have to have it on an exchange in the country that you were participating in. So effectively any exchange allowing Ripple would have to be licensed by the country's equivalent of the SEC or the FCA in the UK, etc. And Ripple do not want that because it will cause a blockade to their ultimate goal, which is to provide the world with a liquidity token that can be used in any circumstance, in any environment, and isn't privy to any governmental rigor. Okay, so that is definitely a bad thing for Ripple if that were to be classed as a security. Now, the news has actually picked up this and run with it, and a number of exchanges have actually stopped offering the token. They've delisted XRP, which is quite big news when you consider it's the third largest cryptocurrency. Crosstower, OSL, and Beaksy have all disallowed their traders from holding or buying and selling Ripple. Okay, now these are very small exchanges. They represent less than 0.1% of the total volume on a daily or annual basis. So they are very, very small, but nonetheless it does set a precedent that Binance, Huobi, Crypto.com, etc. may decide that it's not worth the risk to allow their users to trade XRP and therefore delist or otherwise suspend Ripple trading for the foreseeable future until the lawsuit is decided. Now this lawsuit is probably going to go on, well, it's been going on for 6-7 years already, just quietly behind the scenes without much aggression from the SEC. So who knows how long it's going to be before we get any kind of resolve of this issue. So let's now look at the actual exchanges themselves. You'll notice that none of those exchanges that I referenced here actually appear in this. Binance is huge with 40%, almost 42%. Huobi, HitBTC, Bitstamp, etc. All these are theoretically now trading what could be classed as a security, and we can actually see this order flow basically going into USD and euros. But we've noticed that BTC against XRP is up by 50%. That's because some traders have spotted the bargain that they are able to get with BTC against XRP at the moment. And similarly, there'll be another one for XRP against ETH, but I can't see that at the moment. However, a lot of people are selling XRP at the moment on the back of this news. Obviously, if you are hodling it, it's going to be very painful because we were at 75 cents a couple of weeks ago to sell down at this region. I am going to provide you with a little bit of technical analysis towards the end of this chat, where I basically say what I think is going to happen for Ripple and why I think holding it, despite what the SEC are doing, may be worth a good idea, just because the price is now very unattractive for selling out. So this is actually the new story that is developing. SEC charges Ripple and 2 executives with conducting $1.3 billion of unregistered securities offering. Now this actually deals with the personal finances of Bradley Garlinghouse and Christian Larson, who are both very, very high up in the Ripple Labs management. They actually sold approximately $600 million of personal XRP, which theoretically, if it had been a security, they would have had to go through the SEC to do. Okay. Now, the XRP itself was also sold through the company as well, which would have had various legal ramifications, and the SEC have definitely been biding their time with this. Obviously, cryptocurrencies are in the news right now. Bitcoin's broken its new all-time high and it's breaking a new all-time high practically every week. Ethereum is taking off as well, and there's been upgrading in the background. So this is a very opportunistic time, you might say, for the SEC to come out and attack Ripple. In actual fact, the majority of other altcoins have actually had huge sell-offs today, and actually have started to move. The only one who hasn't is Sequila, which is actually up hugely over the past couple of weeks, around 70%. But the rest of the market, CRO, etc., is all down at the moment on the back of this SEC deciding to go and attack Ripple effectively. So how do we decide? How do lawyers decide what is a security and what isn't a security? Well, there's something called the Howey test. And a Howey test asks 4 questions. Is the asset, whatever it is, an investment of money? Well, yes, Ripple is an investment of money. You can only buy Ripple using capital, using money. There is an expectation of profits from the investment. Yes, not many people buy Ripple, other than if they're using it purely as a liquidity provider, which is obviously its intended purpose, to actually get profits from it. Now, you could argue that the majority of Ripple's white paper states that it's only to be used for a liquidity providing service. Now, there are people who are using Ripple purely for that purpose, so that is a little bit uncertain, but the majority of people definitely, as we can see by going back to this, are holding Ripple as an investment and want to profit from it. So it is a speculative investment, an expectation of profits from the investment. The investment of money is in a common enterprise. Now that's technical jargon there. Common enterprise, precisely defined, and they have different interpretations. Most federal courts define a common enterprise as one that is horizontal, meaning that investors pool their money or assets together to invest in a project. Now, that is definitely true. If you're buying Ripple, you're adding into the pool of tokens and the pool of money that represents Ripple, and your funds will form a part of the market capitalization. So everyone's pooled into this money here. So market capitalization, sorry. So $12 billion of people's money is currently represented, and if someone sold out $1 billion, it would go down to 11 billion, and everyone would suffer as a result. The price would drop in proportion. So that is definitely true. So we've got, yes, No, yes. And any profit that comes from the efforts of a promoter or third party. So Ripple Labs likes to partner with associations, MoneyGram, etc. And that has very positive news stories. Spark token, for example, pushed the price up from 15 cents to 75 cents recently, and that was a third party. So yes, you can definitely argue that 0.4 is appropriate. However, the Howey test was devised in 1946, so it is a little bit outdated. It was pre-internet even, so using these criteria might not be that defensible in court. And if a lawyer were to come under these tests and say, well, it covers 3 out of the 4 for Howey tests, there may be a strong defense of this that Ripple Labs is able to formulate. So what's something a little bit more recent used in law? Well, this is the family test or familiarity test. Okay, so these are 4 questions that a lawyer can ask to determine whether an item or asset is a security. So is the purpose of the debt transaction to raise money for the general use of a business enterprise or to finance substantial investments? And is the purchaser motivated primarily by the profit of the notes that are expected to generate from the business? Now that's quite a sentence. Let's break it down. Is the purpose of the debt transaction to raise money for the general use of a business enterprise? Well, yes, Ripple Labs have been periodically selling their Ripple in order to fund their day-to-day business. So yes. Or to finance substantial investments. Yes, they've also done ROI and completed further developments on the back of it, and Ripple Labs are being paid by the Ripple token, by the sale of the Ripple token. And is the purchaser motivated primarily by the profit the notes are expected to generate in the business? Yes. I would argue that 90%, 95% of people holding Ripple are primarily motivated by the profit. Does the issuer's plan of distribution seek to establish some form of common trading in the notes, either for speculative or investment purposes? Well, yes, the fact that Ripple is listed on exchanges worldwide does mean that they are generally meant for common trading, or you can trade them, almost certainly. Is there a reasonable public expectation that the instruments should be treated as securities? This, not really, because a security would imply that there's dividends. A security would imply that you get voting rights, perhaps, and none of those things happen with Ripple tokens. You don't get any special treatment. You don't get any further tokens from owning Ripple tokens from Ripple Labs themselves. So not really. They don't really define as security. You don't really get a share. Well, you don't get a share certificate at all. You just happen to own a small part. And obviously, of course, Ripple Labs itself is a company. You don't own any part of the company or any share of the company. So technically no. C is definitely no. They are not securities, or they wouldn't be expected to be securities, and anyone who looks at them with a cursory glance would see that these are not securities. Is there some mitigating factor, such as the existence of other regulatory schemes, that sufficiently protects investors, thereby rendering strict application of securities laws unnecessary? Now, this is a sticky point, because yes, there kind of is a little bit of regulatory scheme for cryptocurrencies. However, it's very, very immature, especially in the US. They've only just kind of nailed down what they think Bitcoin is, and they haven't really decided what Ripple is, hence this controversy. So in time, perhaps 5 years or so, the answer to this question will be a definite yes, but at the moment it's very unambiguous. There may be rules and procedures around crypto law in the future, but as for now, it's a bit uncertain. So we'll have to leave that. In other countries, there definitely is. The FCA in the UK, for example, have a framework now for cryptocurrencies and how they treat cryptocurrencies, and that is providing the way for a lot more clarity in situations such as this. But the US are still definitely coming to terms with crypto tokens and crypto assets like this, and therefore this is, I would say, more of a no than a yes at the moment, but it's definitely something that is in the works, and to completely negate it out of everything would be immature and not particularly relevant, I would think. So what is Ripple to do in all this? Well, they could move completely out of the US altogether and just not have any trading in the US go on, or just completely leave the US. And Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO, has taken a look at several countries, the UK, for example, Singapore, Switzerland, and the UAE, and Japan have also been eyelined as potential hubs for Ripple. Okay, London is particularly clear because Ripple actually has got clearance that the FCA believe that Ripple is not a token, not a security. So the FCA have actually come out in August 2019 and said that they don't believe that Ripple is actually a security. So that is something that the US obviously haven't either decided is legitimate or haven't decided to support. Whereas the FCA have definitely come out and said they're happy that Ripple is not a security. It has non-security attributes, according to the FCA. Now, obviously, it's a much smaller market in the UK for Ripple, and the US has had lots of problems with cryptocurrency in the past. It took them a long time to decide that Bitcoin was actually money as opposed to property or indeed a security. And one of the things that actually helped that was decentralization, the decentralized nature of Bitcoin. Now, Ripple is not very decentralized. In actual fact, over half of it, as I have already said, is collected in one source. So that's going to be a massive problem for Ripple moving forward. But at least the FCA are supporting Ripple here, and that they make them more attractive to move to London as opposed to US soil. Now, Bitcoin is actually not legal everywhere in the world. It's illegal in around about 20 to 30 countries, Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, etc. And has only just become legal in large countries that you would assume would have a legal framework around cryptocurrencies. For example, there's a banking ban in Canada with Bitcoin. Now, this is obviously the world's first cryptocurrency, and it's been around for 10 years or so. So it's got a lot of backlog behind it. And so far, it's only available in around about 80% of countries. So we do have definitely a lot of progress to make with other tokens that aren't as developed as Bitcoin and aren't as internationally well known as Bitcoin. I would expect, given the current price movement and the institutional adoption of Bitcoin, that this will start to get better. However, the majority of countries that don't allow Bitcoin seem to be doing it for religious reasons as opposed to anything else. For example, in Egypt, where it has been religiously decreed as classifying as commercial transactions in Bitcoin as haram. Prohibited under Islamic law. So probably not that much to develop for Bitcoin, but other tokens have a long way to go. Just look at the list of coins or tokens that are not available for trading in the US, according to crypto.com. There's a good 30 to 40 there, and these aren't exclusive either. These aren't exhaustive. Tokens like Celsius, Cell, and Nexo, because they do operate a lot more like a security, Nexo in particular, because you get a dividend from it and you also are able to earn more or have reduced fees by holding it. Nexo definitely cannot operate in the US, and Celsius as well, but these, for various reasons, are not allowed to be traded in the US because they come against US law. I pick one example, StoreJ, for example, which is a storage token, a decentralized storage token. If you own StoreJ, you earn money from it, passive income effectively from lending out your storage and getting paid the tokens in order to have your storage accessed by anyone in the world. If your server is based in the US and you earn over $600 in StoreJ, you have to fill in a form 199, and send it to the United States, basically. And you have to report your income proportionally. Now, a lot of people can't be bothered with that, so they decided to not allow it. So crypto.com tends to be quite rigorous in its approach because it's obviously looking for widespread adoption and wants to help regulators as opposed to go against them. So they have decided to not list it. But there are quite a lot of cryptocurrencies in here, in particular DeFi tokens, that are not allowed to be traded or bought or sold in the US, and it may be the fact that Ripple just becomes one of those, and Ripple just excludes itself from the US, much like Facebook is excluded from China, or Amazon is excluded from China, for example. And then obviously privacy coins as well are banned in the US just because anti-money laundering reasons, basically. The US likes to know where every dollar comes from and who owns each dollar in order to either charge tax or make sure there's nothing nefarious going on behind the scenes. So what would I do now? I would hold your Ripple until we see that relief rally that I explained earlier, up to 33 to 40 cents. I would then probably sell if I'm looking to get out of Ripple for the time being, if there's a lot of uncertainty around the news and the SEC have not decided what to do, basically. I would then feel that buying down here is probably appropriate, because at some point, if things got really bad and if the price did go down to 14 cents to 6 cents, the risk to reward ratio of Ripple leaving the US, for example, would be too good to miss. I do believe that Ripple is a long-term project. I don't think it's going to die as a result of the 360 million people in the US not being able to access it or trade it. And in time, you never know, the SEC might turn around and decide that they were too harsh, or it may have some other legal loophole that they can get through in terms of adoption. But that's only if the worst were to happen and the US were to decide that XRP is a security. Whether that changes anything on an international scale, I don't know. It would be too early for me to speculate. But if I were holding a huge amount of Ripple here, I wouldn't sell down here out of fear. You risk getting out and not getting back in again. But I would hodl. If you're keen to have a very exciting trade on the back of this, I would sell my BTC into Ripple for 1,000 Satoshi. You could easily double, triple, or even quadruple your returns over the course of the next couple of months, depending on what the SEC do. Now, obviously, I would dollar cost average into that theoretically, just in case we do see any more negative press about this. It is a very, very new story, a developing story. But theoretically, if you believe in Ripple for the long term and you want to take a punt, then definitely buying some Ripple with your BTC would be entirely appropriate at the moment, as the price is very, very, very low. In actual fact, it's only been lower once before, and that was back in December 2017, according to this chart, which is Binance. Well, I hope that explains everything. I hope you are now feeling a lot more confident or a lot more clued up about the Ripple scenario. Obviously, it's a fast-changing scenario and fast-changing environment, but I hope now that does explain the background as to why Ripple has had a dramatic sell-off today and probably will continue to be very volatile over the course of the next few weeks. If there's a particular cryptocurrency or story or news article that you'd like me to take a look at, please make a note in the comments. Otherwise, I wish you the best and happy trading. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to get $25 of CRO completely for free, please sign up to Crypto.com using our referral link in the description on this video. We also get $25 of CRO to keep this channel operating. The Crypto Professor likes feedback. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it. If you'd like more of the same, please don't forget to subscribe. Or if you have questions, please post them in the comments and I'll endeavour to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.